Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to the month in review for June of 2021. So, yeah, I'm getting this out right now. I went stupid short on the haircut. And really, the reason why is even after that first haircut I got, as you can see in the pickup video, like, it was just, I don't know, like, this. I've said this before. When you get gray hair, the sides tend to do this because it's a different coarseness. So I just said, fuck it. Like, let's just do the whole thing, like, clean restart. No, try to build, make it look like a haircut, not a haircut thing. So I ended up going to this barber that's by the house, which is the barber I used to go to before I started to go to the one by the hotel. And different company altogether. And the guy was like, "Oh, I've seen you in the neighborhood. Where do you get your hair cut?" And I was like, "Well, I used to get it by work, and then last year happened, and I just didn't." So he's like, "Oh, well, where'd you go before that?" And I was like, "Oh, I used to go this place, but under the old ownership." He goes, "Oh yeah, the health inspectors closed them down. That's why they left." I was like, "Oh, wonderful." So nonetheless, he did a good job, I think. It's not really, as I told him, this is not normally how short I get it cut, but it's a fucking mess. Just you know, when I explained to him what the previous barber did, he was like, "No, no, that totally makes sense." But he's like, "I see what you mean too. The volume just like we gotta just kill all the volume altogether." So that's what we are. But I even told him, I said, "Next time we're not doing like a two on the sides, we're doing like a four." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course." So I guess that's that. But in the meantime, I like the fuzziness, to say the least. But I also realize like the gray is literally this entire side. Like this is short, but this is all essentially gray at this point, and the brown you're seeing is the sides coming down. So yeah, getting old sucks. So video games. Okay, so June was I think it was a little bit of a kooky month for me. Work again, same thing I keep complaining about. I'm just pulling up the backlog already. Um, with the new system that we're doing, it's I get it. I do think it's going to succeed eventually. It's just you got to get there, as it were, and it's frustrating as somebody who really just enjoys being busy. Um, and it's not just me; it's everybody else too. And we changed teams. I have a new manager now, and the person's great. At the new team we have is great. But even they're like, okay, yeah, I can see why you're getting annoyed by this. And but it's not terrible. I'm not going to say it's terrible. That would be an absolute lie. But I do notice it when I do get my downtime. I tend to kind of just not know what to do. Just because, it's like I've literally just again stared at a screen all day waiting for magic to occur, and now it's like, okay, so now I'm going to go play some game where with magic involved. But I think part of the thing that pulled me out of it a little bit was actually E3, which I know a lot of people were down on this year. Was it the most exciting E3? No, not really. But I think some people misinterpreted or just misunderstood how the pandemic did affect video game development. The reason why people had announcements last year is because the stuff was already in the works. This is the year where you're seeing the result of a year of remote work from home, lockdown, shutdown, and all that. Case in point, Capcom's was more of just, hey, this is what you already know about, and here's an update. So not really exciting. Square Enix, as far as I'm concerned, they brought some new stuff that we already kind of knew about, but they dropped the ball too. Microsoft came in hard, as they tend to do. But again, same scenario. A lot of just teaser trailers. And, as much as I love the Outer Worlds 1, the trailer for Outer Worlds 2 made me excited. Ooh, cool, Outer Worlds 2. But they really. It's. I'm not complaining, but I also get the excuse. Like, they're literally like, we're working on it, we have nothing, and they're kind of poking fun at themselves for it, and making a comment about the industry, and it's funny, but I'm like, still wanted to see something. anything. But what can you do? Nintendo, on the other hand, as they tend to do, they're super secretive to start. So it's really helpful when they have something like this because they can basically just go all out and just give, B-52 after B-52. And the biggest B-52 they dropped this year for a lot of people is the new Metroid game, Metroid Dread, which, let me tell you, has been a pain. This is, truthfully, normally, this is like a first world problem, and I know it is. I have always been able to get the pre-order for the limited edition available now, console, system, what have you. I have always been able to get it at Best Buy, at Amazon, at one of them. I was not able to this time, and not the amiibos, not the stupid edition, and it was really frustrating. And it wasn't I mean, honestly, it's frustrating based on the fact of the matter of everybody knows it's people go in there and buy 10 and scalping and botting and all that crap. We all know this. But for me, it was kind of just like, wow, like it sounds dumb. It was like, I really was like, wow, I am old now, because I didn't even think to I didn't even think to immediately go to Wario 64's Twitter and just hit F5 a couple of times, like I normally would have. Or just go to a website and just type in, like, Fire Emblem, F5, 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 until it pops up. And not once. I did eventually manage to get a pre-order on Amazon Japan. So here's the whole rigmarole. We have a pre-order for the stupid edition on Amazon Japan. We have a standard order with the amiibos on Amazon Japan. We have the regular edition on pre-order at Target because there was a glitch and they somehow worked with the buy two get one. But I also made one at Best Buy because they may just cancel that one. I'm not necessarily sure. I got another set of the amiibos from Amazon Germany to come in. And then I also have another set of amiibos on Play Asia. Now, obviously, I do not need 3 sets of amiibos. Pretty much what I'm doing is, one is for me, obviously, and then one is for Steve El Supremo if he's not able to get a pre-order. And then I'm just going to hang on to the other 2 just in case somebody, like another friend of mine, needs them. And, they would... Truthfully, Play Asia did mark it up, but if they're willing to pay for that, then cool. I just send it to them, or I change if I get it at a Best Buy or something like that, and I'll just cancel one of the other ones because I really don't care. More the bent out of shapeness for me with the amiibos is the fact that even though I don't really collect amiibos, I literally have every Metroid amiibo. It would drive me nuts not to have those 2. The Zelda ones I kind of gave up on. I sold those off a while back, but I find it really odd that the quality of life thing is behind the Zelda amiibo for Skyward Sword. That I find really strange. But anyway, so Nintendo had that. They showed off Breath of the Wild 2, and then the theory crafting went on with the Link's new black prosthetic arm. My theory is that the Master Sword was so powerful it literally burned his arm. That's my theory. I'm sticking with that because to me that kind of makes sense because it's his right hand, and unless you're playing in the GameCube, he's left-handed, I think it is. But otherwise, no, he is left-handed actually. No, that doesn't make any sense. Shit. Okay, well in that case, I don't know what the hell it is then. But, Nintendo, I think that, they brought some interesting stuff. And, the Guardians of the Galaxy game from Square Enix, to me, does look cool. I'm excited for that. A lot of people are like, wait, so you can only play as Quill or Star-Lord? I'm cool with that because Star-Lord is, like, my favorite Guardian, second to Drax, but purely... Drax is more so Batista's interpretation just because I think he's hysterical as him. But, just... I'm not a fan of the art style, but I think that the concept sounds fun. But, I have to wait and see for that because after Avengers, I'm I'm a little nervous. And then, we got release dates for like Elden Ring and a bunch of other crap. So, but E3 did get me excited to play games, oddly enough. And the strange thing is, Ratchet and Clank came out, and everybody was super excited about it. And I was like, and I ordered it. You saw it in the pickup video, and still not opened as of this recording. But I decided to play A Crack in Time because I had never finished it, or never played it, rather. I actually have to play Into the Nexus, and then I'm totally caught up on the Ratchet and Clank games besides Rift Apart. And A Crack in Time is really, it's interesting. Now, if you've never played any of the Future trilogy, this is the middle game. This is the second one of the three. And there is some severe spoilers because it kind of piggybacks off of what happened in the first game. And in between, there are some other Ratchet and Clank games like Quest for Booty, which was a download only. And the cool thing about this, I was like, great, I don't want to play some stupid 6-hour bullshit, like, silly game. It actually does a good thing wherein it gives you a quick recap of what happened in those in-between games and what happened at the end of A Crack in Time. I'm sorry, Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Fuck, which one is it? I don't remember the name, but the first Future game. And they do it, Insomniac does it in the only way they can. They have somebody interviewing Captain Quark, and he thinks it's for his new movie, and instead they're just asking about what happened with Ratchet in XYZ, and he just answers, and you get like a little cutscene for it. So you could skip Quest for Booty altogether, which thank God. As I booted it up, and I was just like, ugh, like I was not in the mood. I wanted a full fat Ratchet and Clank game. And this one, I have to say, is really good. I think it's a definite step up from the previous one. At this point, Insomniac is a lot more comfortable with the PS3 hardware, you can tell. It still feels old. There's a lot of textures and stuff and mechanics that are really freaking old. But it was oddly refreshing to me. It was something that I hadn't experienced in a platformer since the last Ratchet and Clank game, actually. And the reason why I've always really attached to the Ratchet and Clank games, as opposed to like Sly Cooper, is because it incorporates a little bit of everything. You have the cartoon, you have the comedic stuff, you have the third-person shooter, you have the platforming, and then you have a little bit of a shooter thing going on. And they do all that really well. The only thing I will say about this game, it is really short, actually. Towards the end of the game, they have kind of a collectible thing as a means of unlocking. So for you to get to the last level, it's literally like, hey, you have to get like 40 of these. And it's like, luckily I was actually doing the side quests to get them throughout my gameplay, only because I had a hunch this was going to happen, and sure enough, it did a couple of times. So I never had to stop, but overall, the game's really good. And I have to dance around the story because you have to play the other one to get the total thing. But I'll leave it like this. You spend most of the game playing as Ratchet. You actually are separated from Clank for a majority of the game. You still get Clank levels, but ultimately they're separated for a majority of it. But really good game. And I was actually thinking about going into straight into Nexus, but then I decided against it because I decided to finish Super Robot Wars X, or Cross. Played this on the Vita. This was one of the longer RPGs that's been sitting in my backlog for a bit. And here's the irony about this. I finished this in like 18 hours or something like that. These games tend to take 40 hours, primarily because of the walls of text and dialogue in between. And I'll be honest, I skipped most of it just because it was fucking nonsense. And it wasn't even interesting. The gameplay, the combat, and the tactics were ultimately the fun part for me. And this game is great because it actually has a lot of mech. They always have giant robots, but a lot more of the mecha shows I like. Like Code Geass is represented, Gurren Lagann is represented. They also had a lot of Universal Century Gundam. Amuro Ray, you get to play as Char this time, thank God. So Char and Amuro Ray in the RX Gundam, basically, I always trick out Amuro. pretty much he just flies around killing everybody. But Char, my God, he runs around killing everybody. And then with Gurren Lagann, he runs around killing everybody. So ultimately, my end team was like, it was Amuro, it was Char, 2 Mazingers, the Gurren Lagann. My God, my nose is itchy. So where was I? So with the Super Robot Wars games, they do add in a little bit of the, this is not my final form sort of thing. So that's always good. In this game, even though I really just ignored the story, it's, if you've played a Super Robot Wars game, you know what to expect. But for anybody who's looking to get into the series, I always say look at the robot roster. You don't get them all at the start, obviously. But, look at the robot roster. Some of your favorites are on there. Go for them. That's pretty much it. Ratchet and Clank, we talked about. Also finished Metroid Fusion. So coming off of the whole Metroid Dread thing, I decided to crack my hand at Metroid Fusion because I'd never actually played it. I own it, thank God. But it was, how could I put it this way? I beat it in 4 hours and 1 minute. It is extremely short. It is extremely easy. It is probably the most un-Metroid game ever. Because you're on a ship. I'm not going to give the context why. But pretty much the game starts off with Samus is basically, it's not a spoiler because it starts beginning. Samus is going to die. And they utilize a sort of Metroid DNA to basically reconstruct her body, but because of that, that's why her outfit looks so strange. I didn't read into the lore because I really don't want to spoil it in case it ties into Dread somehow, but it seems like pretty much the power suit is now her body. They kind of like fused it into her because they couldn't get it off. That's what it sounds like. But with this, there was a virus, and the virus actually is taking control of the power suit itself. And she ends up on this space station trying to save the day. And you're guided by an AI, and the AI kind of just tells you where to go and highlights it. So, yes, there's like 6 different areas, but you're pretty much told, okay, now go to section 2. Okay, now go to section 6. Okay, we've gotten this, and now we can go back to section 5. And it makes it really easy. And the individual maps aren't that big either. But as a game, it has cutscenes, which is cool. The bosses, except for one of them, which if you've played the game, you probably know the one I'm talking about. It's a fucking pain in the ass. It's entertaining. I'll say it's definitely not my favorite Metroid game. It's just too easy. And even at 4 hours and 1 minute, I only found 43% of the items, and even then I felt like I had way too many missiles. So it's probably just that easy. Following up to that, I did play and I finished Redeemer on the Switch. Now, this is a random game. Pretty much, if I could summarize it, it's kind of like a top-down John Wick. Pretty much you play this character who was a mercenary, gave it up, went into, I guess you could say, the mountains to live with the monks, and hasn't done anything violent for 1,000 days. Ultimately, I guess this company he used to work for tracks him down because they need to use people's guinea pigs for their experiments. Just so happens to be the, I guess you could say, the monastery he's living at. And they kidnap all the brothers, and he goes so much for 1,000 days, and you pretty much just run around killing people. You can use items found in the levels, you can use martial arts, you can use guns, you can pick up items, you can throw chairs, you can throw like not car alarms, like fire extinguishers, things like that. 16 levels, kind of labyrinthian, but I don't want to say it gets repetitive because it does. But it's one of those games where if you have 10-15 minutes and you just want to do something mindless, like do a level or two, and then the best part about the Switch is you put it in suspend and you come back like the next day and you're just good to go. It's great for that. I would not recommend playing this game from start to finish in one sitting. It gets very mind-numbing. The story is really bad. But here's the thing. The game isn't that good, but it's so much fun. It's literally one of like those trashy classics, I would say, or it's janky. And even on the Switch, when it first came out, from what I understand, it did not perform well at all. Um, the enhanced edition does, but at the same time, you have to remember it's the Switch. If there's enough stuff on the screen, you're going to chug, regardless. It is available on PC, but I think it lends itself to the Switch really well because you can just pick up and play a couple of levels or even half a level. And really, it's just once you finish off all the dudes and you just, kind of linear, make it to the end, you just go to the next one. So it's not like you're really missing much of anything. And the story is really just like 2 or 3 cutscenes. If that's barely any dialogue whatsoever, and there's only like I think 3 or 4 bosses total for 16 stages, and the last boss is more of a puzzle than an actual boss fight. It's kind of a joke. And then finally, I finished River City Girls. This I've had on the Switch for a while, and since I'm trying to basically reduce a lot of the stuff that's just been hanging around, I've really been trying to play games that I just didn't get around to, which, as we know, is a thing. But Redeemer being one of them, and River City Girls being another, and I played it on Game Pass only because it was installed already for whatever reason, and I got this Xbox One S, and I felt like I should use it. It is such a good game. I am so happy they're making a sequel. And I've always been partial to the River City games or the Kunio Kun games, whichever you prefer. I like the RPG-ness of it. I wasn't always a fan of the characters, but I love if you've played like the classic Double Dragon, there's like a lot. I played one. I think it was River City Showdown on the 3DS. I think a year or 2 ago. At the last level, excuse me, it's literally ripped right out Double Dragon 1 as like a nod. And, that's really fun. And this was made by WayForward, which, I've always been a hit or miss with them, but lately I've been getting nothing but hits with them, and I've been able to say that the past few times. Couldn't say that for Batman Brave and the Bold, though, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to like that as a Batman fan. But this game's really good. The soundtrack is ridiculously good. I actually downloaded Megan McDuffie's solo album just because I enjoy her sort of electronic, almost vaporwave style. And she sings really well too. But she did a phenomenal job on this soundtrack, and I would even say, even if the game was mediocre, the soundtrack just pumped it up so much. But in this case, this is a very solid game. The story is funny. And the story even went in a direction that I wasn't sure if it was going to go, but the way it ended, I laughed. I was like, oh, it totally makes sense now. And then once you finish the game, you can play as the boys. That's not really a spoiler. I didn't try it. I played through as them, and I thought that was well enough and fun. Huge open world, no stages. You take the bus to get around, but it's really fun. It's not too long. It's maybe 6 hours. Doesn't overstay its welcome. And of course, there has to be nods to Double Dragon in there, which there definitely are. But that was really it. I finally started Cold Steel 4 today, actually. I am on chapter 1, and so it's early, but I'm pretty much just getting everybody's kind of summarizing everything that happened. But the good news is, because I've basically been playing these frequently enough, I've been able to skip all that crap. So pretty much I just started chapter 1. I'm out of the first town area, and I'm progressing slowly. Also, I started to play Pokemon Conquest, just to check this out with a buddy of mine, with Aaron, and or 22. Because I never played it, he never played it. And so far, I've conquered 4 kingdoms, and I have to say this is the easiest fucking strategy game I've ever played. If you know the rules of Pokemon, you pretty much know what to do. But the interesting thing with this is that it's not all kill a bunch of dudes. It's hold banners, or do this or do that. Like, there's little side objectives. So for one of them, it's in the beginning, the fighting kingdom fighting Pokemon Kingdom, you have to hold 4 banners for 5 turns, and the 4 banners are in a ring, and there's one entrance in and one entrance out. One on your side, one on the opponent's side. So I just put a Carnivine, like, with a lot of HP, just, like, smashed him up in there, put some potions on him, put, like, the Jigglypuff chick behind him, too, so she could just heal him. And he just tanked the whole thing while I just sat there for 5 turns doing nothing. It was pretty lackluster. I don't know. I imagine it would get more difficult. It's already introduced the thing where the other kingdoms can invade you, but I pretty much bottlenecked it so they can't. So I don't know. We'll see. There's 17 kingdoms you have to conquer, and I've already knocked out 4 or 5. So I think that's going to do it for this month in terms of games. But in terms of shows, I finished Megalobox again. I love this show. If you're into sports anime, this is pretty much the same. It's not as high octane, adventure-y, shonen-ish like Hajime no Ippo. This is more. It's a little bit more cerebral into like the psychology of boxing. And if you watch boxing and if you're into boxing, the concepts that they don't go super deep, but they go deep enough where it makes sense. Like in terms of balance and in terms of like, distance on the feet and all that stuff. It's actually really interesting and it's fun. And it's 13 episodes, so it's not that long at all. Well, the first season. Second season's, I think, is still currently airing, but it's subtitle only. And it's on Hulu, so that's easy to get to. I also started watching, and I should be finished with it by the end of today, if not tomorrow, Godzilla Singularity on Netflix. Apparently, this is the new anime Godzilla series that came out in, I think, April. I didn't even know. Just started, so I'm almost done with it. That, too, is 13 episodes. I'm on, I think, 10 or 11 right now. It's interesting. It's more about time manipulation and time travel than Godzilla. And typically with a Godzilla movie, there's always like a backdrop of scientists and, people's problems, and then, there's a fucking monster in the background doing his thing. But with this, it's like a mixture of Shin Godzilla and Steins Gate. It's very heavy, actually. To the point where I have even had to like back up a bit and just be like, okay, I am getting confused by all the stuff that's going on here. And here's another odd thing for you. So the main character is voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, my man. The main female character is voiced by, oh shit, I forgot her name. She's the voice of Ann in Persona 5, and she's the voice of Una Crawford, among other characters in several different games. Una Crawford from Cold Steel. So here I am, hearing her voice going, I know this voice, and now I realize how I've always known that the anime video game industry has been rather incestuous, but I didn't know Johnny Young Bosch was doing the voice of Joshua either. So I literally went from a show with this young lady and Johnny Young Bosch to another game with the same young lady and Johnny Young Bosch. It's very freaky, to say the least. I mean, I know some characters get roles all the time, but I just could not get over the fact that it's like similar interaction. But as a show, it's pretty good, I guess. It's, as I said, it's a little bit deeper than I thought it was going to be, but I like the fact that they got Jet Jagger in there, or Jet Jaguar. If you're a Godzilla fan, you know who that is. The way they tie that in, I thought was actually kind of cool. It gave me like some Robotics Notes vibes in there, as well as kind of like a high school science project thing going on. It starts off as like kind of like a fun show, and then it just gets super deep. And then once the monsters come into play, I like the direction they're doing with it, but anime CG, it either looks good or it looks bad, or it looks forced. It's a little bit on the forced. I wouldn't say it looks bad, but it definitely looks a little forced. But hey, that Netflix money, yo. Anyway, that's going to do it, I think, for this month. July is going to have a lot of RPGs. I think, I'm going to be playing Cold Steel and Pokemon Conquest, so that's probably going to take a lot of time. Oh, you know what game I did play, and I don't think I mentioned it, or maybe I did mention. No, I did mention it. Was Fahrenheit. Don't play it. Yeah, I think that's about it. So, until next time. Oh no, I can't. That's Johnny's. I've been Alex, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy.